back to the channel and to this. Well, I did make a little mention of it on the channel, and this is going to be the first of a few ranking videos. Yes, I'm aware that I'm a bit behind the scenes with the whole tier maker stuff and all of that, but I wanted to keep it thematic to the things that have been on the channel, things that have been on the Twitch and stuff like that. Probably, I mean, if people were up for it, I'd be happy to do a couple of fun ones around, like, Athalas and that, like, different factions, different characters and things, but for the most part, I'm going to lean maybe a bit away from that, because, well, you know, I'm the creator of them, so it's a bit kind of self-serving. But if people are up for that, I'll be happy to do it, but there's going to be twofold when it comes to Divide and Conquer, which is what this is, the Lord of the Rings mod for Medieval 2. I'm going to do this one, which is going to be personal love and favourites, so the real sort of bias one, and then the next one I'm actually going to change it up a bit, because I want to do one based around how the AI in the campaign behaves, because in the Dwarven campaign I've been doing at the moment, some of the AI has been behaving very weirdly in ways that I'm not actually that used to. So we shall begin, and we're going to do it, I think, race by race. We'll start with the dwarfs, actually, I think. So, I think, first and foremost, and for some reason the pictures on these ones are really fuzzy. I don't know why. But, to begin with, we will go with Ered Luin. Now, there was actually... I'm going to... Just a side note. There are going to be a few factions that I'm also going to come back to later on, because they have options. One's like Khand, one's like Ered Luin. Though, whilst I say that, I'm probably not going to do the sort of choices like Dwarven or the Elves get, because those ones are a bit different and there's no reunited kingdom. So, like, when the two kind of semi-merge or can have a particular path of units, like with Bree as well, with the mercenaries or the economy, I'm not going to really do that. It's more going to be if the decision alters their alignment. So Khand obviously have an alignment one, Ered Luin get the option to accept the rings or not, so things like that. But just beginning, again, we will go with Ered Luin. And for me personally, in my own experience playing as them, and just their general roster and their style and everything, Ered Luin, straight into S. I love the layout of their unit rosters. I'm quite a defensive player when it comes to strategy games, so having a faction that's got the stubbornness of the dwarves, so really good morale, an amazing roster of ranged units, and a brilliant roster of pikemen in Third Age, which does get away with the Medieval 2 issue with pikemen of them switching to their secondary sword. I just love their roster, and also I just love their general aesthetic. It's something very different for the dwarves, like not just the coloration with the blue and everything, but you're stepping away from the sort of long beard. Yes, you do still have long beards, but you've got the fire beards, you've got the broad beams in there. And I mean, okay, yes, they have one of the safest starting locations, which does play to their benefit, but I mean with Ered Luin, my actual campaign with them, which was version 4, not 5, but I was able to just progress through. I was able to help conquer Angmar, defeat them, push on, help against the Ardenayam a little bit. But then the funny parts about all of it were I ended up just, and it's why I ended up actually ending the campaign because I just got stuck in a vicious slog against Gundabad. It's like I had dominated and picked up a lot of the Western Territory, and Gundabad had taken a lot of the East, and we were just clashing at the Misty Mountains. And yeah, it was just such a slog. And I mean, there was, just to spice it up a little bit, there was one general, and I still remember the name. The name was Farron. No, Fallon. Fallon, yeah. And I sent him south with a couple of other generals and a contingent of dwarves. And I took back Minas Tirith, I took back Caer Andros, I took both sides of Osgiliath, I took Minas Morgul, and I took Cirith Ungol, and I even took Barad-dûr. And it's just, I was just sweeping through all the big sort of territories, just being as big of a pain to Mordor as I possibly could. And the best part about all of that is that, yes, okay, that company took heavy losses and things, but I was able, from start to finish, actually able to get Fallon back to Ered Luin, sold him down, did everything with the company, and then sent him back. Had to be a bit careful around some Ardenheim ships, but still. So he had quite an adventure for a Ered Luin dwarf. So yes, I've never been the biggest fan of Dwarven factions in games. Like, I like a lot of them, but there's some that are just very much more sort of take or leave. But I just adore Ered Luin massively. Right. Anyway, next up. Next up is Erebor. And I think for me, Erebor are very firm B. I know that may be sacrilege for some people, but I love their units. I love their design. I don't know. It's just, there are times where I find Erebor a bit bland. And I mean, it's not because they lack for enemies. They have Dog or Door. They to some extent they have Rune and they have Gundabad. So they've got a pretty decent contingent of enemies and some pretty tough fights in there. But I think the difference between them and Ered Luin is that whilst Ered Luin are in a safe location and take a while to be able to advance and expand, they start off fairly collected together, whereas Erebor automatically start out fairly widespread. And yeah, it's just something that I'm not overly keen on, but it's also, I'm a heavy player with things like archers, and Erebor have no dedicated archery unit or crossbow unit, short of the Dwarven Travellers, which they all can get. And as much as I like the axe throwers, and they've got so many axe throwers, that is something that does unfortunately take it away from me. It's more they just don't necessarily fit the kind of playstyle I like more than anything else. Because it's almost like, yes, they are decent on defense, but they also rely more on aggression, otherwise they'll just get hindered down over and over again. Like the amount of times where I've seen the Gundabad AI just sweep through. But normally there's also because Rune push through as well, and let's face it, the Dalian AI barely ever is able. Hello everyone. Yeah, sorry about that. Some sort of technical fudge up that I had to sort. But anyway, I'll edit this and have the first bit done before, so apologies for that. Anyway, right, who have we got left Dwarven wise? Khazad-dûm. To be honest, if it was the Khazad-dûm AI, it would be like that. But honestly, I think, like, I don't have that much experience playing as them, but I do know that they have a really good roster and style and everything. So I think I'm going to keep them on a B as well. I think that's going to be where they go. Their campaign is probably the most substandard of all of them. Because, yes, whilst you do have an element of freedom to it, you do also... It's tied around Moria. Like, you have to go after Moria at some point. But, anyway. That's where we're going to leave the dwarves. And whilst we're at it, I am also just going to add a row below. Settings. Not a faction. They are not a playable faction, so I don't quite know why they're on this list. But you know what? As we just did that, let's look at the orc factions. And again, this is in terms of enjoyment, not like power level or things like that. So, in terms of enjoyment and things, I think Dol Guldur, again, it might be sacrilege, but I'm going to actually put them on a B. I do like their setup. I like the idea that they're more of an ambush-based faction. I like the idea that they have maybe a bit more leaning on variety instead of just sword and board all the time, or spear and... well, they do have a few spear and shield, but I do like them. Again, they're orcs and goblins. They're pretty chaff, but they have their own variety and the usage of the poison arrows and things, and also Kamal's bodyguard are one of my favourites. So yeah, that's a nice little standing. And also you have the other thing I like about them is that they are very much like Mordor or even Moria, where you have a variety of enemies that you can go after, but more like Moria than Mordor, you can't sit on your laurels. You do have to actually go after something, otherwise they all converge on you and you can get overwhelmed. Like, you can go after Dale, you can go after the Woodland Realm, you can even attack Rohan, you can go after the Anduin, you can go after Dorwinion, you can go after Khazad-dûm, technically, you can go after Lorien. So you've got a wide variety, but obviously if they all converge on you, then you've got a big problem. So you've got Dol Guldur there. Then we have Misty. Gonna put Misty on a C. I'm not putting them on D because I can have genuine enjoyment playing as them. But they won't go above C because their units are just so damn crap. Their units are not good. So you play as them and you are severely relying on numbers pretty much more than anything else, and that's something that I give or take. Sometimes I like doing it, other times I don't. Yeah, that's really all I have to say, because again, the similar rules apply to Dol Guldur, in fact even potentially more so. I mean, the goblins in this Dorwinion campaign have done something interesting where very early on they randomly attacked Dunland for no reason, and the Dunlandings have been pretty damn crippled since then. But on the flip side, they're just getting annihilated by Khazad-dûm, and they haven't even been able to take in Vladris when they've just had full stacks swarming against it. So, yeah. Mordor. Again, see. I like Mordor's wide variety in a roster. But there is a point in time with the campaigns where Mordor's campaigns just become just too easy. Like, if there was one faction above every other faction in this campaign that you could easily paint the map with, it's Mordor. I mean, to be perfectly frank, you could, if you really wanted to, you could literally just maybe take Eastern Osgiliath and Caer Andros and then just hold the line there against Gondor, and you could change up tactic and just go off to the north. You could turn on your own evil servants and conquer the south. You could do all sorts, and you just... The thing about it is that you just have so many custom settlements that are able to produce all the higher tier units that it's just so... just... There's always a point in time in the campaigns, like when I play, where I just start dreading having to deal with Mordor, because yeah, they do turn into a bigger slog than pretty much any other. And I mean, it gets to a point like with this Dorwinian campaign or with the Ered Luin campaign that by the time I was able to actually lend assistance down there, they've already ruffle stomped the Gondor AI. Like, they've already taken Minas Tirith, they've already pushed them into the fiefdoms. So it's like, you can never almost get there in time to try and stymie that wave unless you're playing Gondor, or maybe Dol Amroth, but that's a very tall order. Same with Rohan, it is possible, but it's also a very tall order. Gundabad. They're not an S. I'm putting them here, but I'm going to clarify that for me they are a low A. And the biggest reason beyond all of it is honestly the freedom of choice. They are not aligned to Mordor. They are obviously not aligned to the forces of good. Basically, the only things they start out hating are the dwarves. And their units, like the Pale Uruks and things like that, their units are just... For an orc faction, their units are brilliant. And I mean, yes, this one isn't talking about the AI, but their AI is something else half the time. But yeah, they just have a massively wide proportion of units and strengths, and it is just very, very reassuring in a lot of cases. So yeah, that is where I have them stationed for now. Right. Next up, you have let's go with the evil men. Start with Angmar. Angmar are an A, actually, I think. Their units are not the best. Oh, fudge, wait, no, I forgot Isengard. Right, hang on. Isengard are a high A. I love Isengard. I love the aesthetic, I love the unit forces they have. And honestly, out of all the orc factions, bar probably Gundabad, they're really the only ones that once you get up to a prominent strength, you actually have a slim to none chance of actually being able to stand up against Mordor if you want to, in my mind. So, yeah, I just love their variety. I don't really have too much to say about Isengard because the with the exception of cavalry, which none of the orc factions are good at, they are probably one of the best all-round factions, which is pretty damn astonishing when you think about the fact that they sort of lack things like trolls and that. I mean, they do. I think they still get those trolls you can upgrade with the Uruk-hai armor. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't played them in a while. But anyway. Now we will go on to Angmar, and Angmar are an A. Angmar have such a wide variety in what they can do, and I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but one of the reasons they're up there is because I love the designs of the units. I really do. It's got a lovely mix of the sort of dark and idea of the Witch King and that, but mixed with almost like the design style of like Rudawa in Divide and Conquer. And I just love that mix. And they also have they actually have some pretty damn great archers as well, which is always a bonus for me. They're not the best by any standard, and they can get overpowered, but I love playing as them, and I do also quite like the factor that whilst you have to be prepared for multiple enemies, you can have a bit of a choice on which enemy you decide to go after first, and I do quite like that as well. Next up is going to be a controversial one. Ardenaeum. I've never been a massive fan of the faction. I love their variety and choice, but I don't know. I just, when it comes to like factions that have a much more sort of Númenórean aesthetic, it's like I kind of get a bit switched off, because on a personal preference I actually prefer like the Northmen factions to the Númenórean ones, bar one, or well actually bar two. So I don't know. It's like in many cases they are like an evil northern Dunedain. And they do have some great mechanics, and you can have a lot of fun. But unlike the Northern Dunedain, well, unlike other factions also like Khand now in version 5, unfortunately with the Ardenaeum you are limited by where you can start by, well, the sea, which is a bit of a hindering annoyance, but yeah, like, they are not a bad faction, but they are also not my favourite. So yeah, I think they're a good middling faction, kind of similar to Erebor. It's like I like them, but they're not really my play style in a lot of cases. So, and then who's the next evil faction? Dunland. Look, I'm going to put Dunland at a high C, and there's one very simple reason for that. I have barely any experience playing as them. It's not because I hate them, it's not because of anything like that, it's just there are factions that I want to play more than I want to play them. They're a fairly mid faction for me in terms of do I want to play as them or not. And yeah, I think that C is pretty much the best I can give them for that. I know that they have a nice variety of units, and I know that they have seen improvements in the newest version, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that front. So for anyone who loves Dunland out there, this is not me hating on them, it's just I don't have enough experience playing as them to put them any higher. I'm not putting Enedwaith in with the evil factions because I see them as more neutral. Harad. I love the Haradrim aesthetic. I love the Southron units. I love the idea of the uniqueness with the higher focus on things like spears than swords. I love their archers, their cavalry. It's honestly my one gripe about Harad is how far away they start from the action. And I mean, yes, okay, that comes maybe more into what I'm going to say on the AI behavior one, but in this Dorwinian campaign, like, they didn't get up and go quick enough, and they've been completely boxed in by their allies. So it's like their AI is basically stuck out there, unable to do anything, and that's a bit of an issue. But yeah, all in all, I just love the Harad faction a lot. Their aesthetic, all of their styles is just brilliant. I will say I'm not the biggest fan of the Trollmen units, but I can also see their benefits and their strengths. So, Khand. Now, like Ered Luin, Khand is going to be one that will come back in the latter part. Khand are high B. Again, part of it is because of a lack of experience, but unlike Dunland, they do have a few other things going for them, I think, especially now in version 5. And like the Horde type faction, but also the really strange mechanic where you've got this Horde type faction that can then also get dwarves, and it's a really interesting sort of hybrid mix. Obviously it depends on whether you join with the Blue Wizards or not, or whatever the choice is now. But also the reason why they're B is because they just start so far away from any of the action again. And also because they're unless you go down the Dwarven route, their infantry is pretty damn pathetic. Yes, you have the Variag Swordsman and the Warlord's Guard, but outside of that, your units are not very good. Which is always going to be a trial and tribulation in siege battles and things. But then we're on to the rune. Now, in the initial go-through, I had them high A. Runa S. I love the... I have a massive preference on how they do the unite the clan to the unite the tribe that the Haradrim have. And their units, the Golden Boys, they're just so awesome. I love the Aralad units, I love the Loke units, I love just the Daratai are on and off, the Balkoth are quite good. Yeah, it's like Rune is the latest Divide and Conquer faction that I've actually completed a full campaign with. And yes, okay, that was on the short-lived Shattered Realm version, but I still had a lot of fun with them. Sorry, there's a very chirpy bird outside. Okay. Yeah, that's really all I have to actually say for them. Right. And I say that's really all I have to say for them because I could honestly gush about Rune for ages. Okay. Now I'm going to look at the Dunedain factions. Gondor. For honestly quite similar reasons to the Arad and Iron. Actually, to be honest, I think it's actually more like that. No, actually it is like this because as much as I'm not overly keen on... I'm never particularly keen on starting with factions that are particularly massive. And Gondor have some terrific units, and I love the usage of the fiefdom units. But I just find them so very vanilla, and it's like, yeah, it's just, I don't have as much of an appeal to play as Gondor as a lot of people do, and yeah, and to be perfectly honest, that's not just the case in Divide and Conquer. That's in most Lord of the Rings games, like Battle for Middle Earth. I'm like, like I just find them a bit. Well, they're definitely not one note, but they're like the jack of all trades kind of aspect, and it's a jack of all trades, but it doesn't really fit as well, I don't think. Whereas Dol Amroth are up there. I love the emphasis on the archer and the cavalry dynamic. It plays so much into my style of play, and their infantry are brilliant. Or, well, not all of their infantry are brilliant, but they're still very strong. And yeah, I just love the layout, and also the unique aspect that not many factions of Lord of the Rings have, where they actually have an island territory. It's a very simple thing, but I do quite like it. And yeah, it's just, I've always had a fondness for the Dol Amroth faction, and I like the idea of having this Principality of Gondor that is a separate faction as well. It's not, because it would be so easy to just loop them into the Gondor factions as well, and I'm so happy that a lot of mods don't do that. So yeah, the Sea Ward units are some of my favourites for like the middle tier factions. The Haven Guard are awesome. The Nimrodil Mariners, and it's also like something that gives them a little bit of a boost is also the factor that they're the Numenorian units, but they do have that slightly elven aesthetic to them, and I love that. Bum 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 is the Northern Dunedain, and the Northern Dunedain are going straight into S and above Rune and above Ered Luin. Aragon and their Beacon of Hope system and the Dunedain, and I am someone who has always had a much larger love for Arnor over Gondor, and I love the Arnorian style armour and units that you can get. I'm sad that you can't get it on as many units as you used to, but I still just love it. And I remember when I used to watch old Third Age siege battles and everything, anytime I saw one with Arnor, I was just like, oh yeah. And yeah, I just love their variety, and I love the fact that their campaign is a challenge. I love that you always have that risk of, oh, it's not just a challenge that you could get set back by losing a territory. No, you could get completely wiped out. And it's like, it's the survival instinct and things like that. So yeah, that's why they're up there at the moment. Right. Let's do the elves. Woodland Realm. High B. I like the Woodland Realm. They have a mass amount of archers, but the problem is that they have so many archers that it almost makes some of their battles just a complete walkover. And I just, also one decision that they made, which is one that I've never been keen on, is when they changed around the elite infantry to be like the axe and shield and the other one. Like, I like the choices in them, but it's the fact that they did that but then reduced the numbers in them. That's the thing that I've always had the issue with. And yeah, I just, they just don't do the trick for me as much as the other Elven factions do. And again, it's just one of those ideas and aspects that, like, I'm one of these people who, if I wanted to actually play like a proper sort of Wood Elf style, I'd actually much rather lean on doing the Elven choice with Dorwinian than I would Woodland Realm. And also, yes, their Elven units are the weakest of the bunch, and yeah, that's obviously the thing. But they also have some great units. It's just, I don't know. I love Lord of the Rings, but I also, one other thing that does tone it down for me is the amount of battles they have to do in woodlands and trees. Like I find that I can get a little bit disorientated with that sometimes, and it is a bit frustrating. Lorien S. Actually below Dunedain. I love Lothlorien. I always have. I think the things that the Woodland Realm struggle with are the things that Lorien get the balance very well done in, and I love their style. I love their aesthetics. Their mix of strong infantry and archers. The factor that they do get at least a couple of units of cav as well. And I mean, some of my favourite units are the Galadrim March Wardens, and like having the long range archer that then have the dual wield almost like glaive like weapon, it's something quite unique to them. And I also love the factor that their campaign, again, whilst you do have an element of safety early on, you can't just rest on that. You do have to build up and secure, whereas with the Woodland Realm, it's like, I think the difference with the Woodland Realm is, like, yes, you take time to build up, but you're also very rarely ever the priority of the enemies. Like, the two main enemies around you are Dol Guldur and Gundabad. Gundabad will go after Anduin or the dwarves, or both. Dol Guldur will go after Dale, Dorwinian, or Anduin. Like, you're very rarely the first one to be attacked. High Elves. Imladris and Linden. Now, midway, I am going to be perfectly honest. If these two were still a separate case of Linden and then Imladris, both of them would be higher. But that's one thing that I've never really sat right on, is them. I can understand, both because of the limitations and balancing, why they did it, but it's just never been one that's sat particularly right with me. Like, they just start out way too spread out for my taste. But they are also up here because they have some phenomenal units. I mean, they have one of the strongest, if not the strongest, roster in the game, and in terms of gram for gram, unit by unit strength. And I love the fact that Sindar units are so pushed into all of that as well, and like there's a wide variety. It's not just one unit just thrown in for representational idea. So, yeah, that's up there as well. And then we are on to the Northmen and the Middlemen. Anduin. As much as I want to put them like here, I think they're more like here. Anduin's campaign is always a challenge and always a struggle, but I can't help it. I just adore their roster. I love their roster so much, and that's pretty much all I have to say. The mix of the Aethied, almost like the sort of semi-wood elf inspired units, the Bjornings. Like, in terms of cultures, they have one of the widest variety, and yeah, I just love the aesthetic of them. And I love the fact that they got made into a faction and it wasn't just, just rebel settlements or things like that. And yes, their campaign is challenging. Doable, but challenging as well. But they also have a great balance between all the aspects of a faction that I love. So, yeah, they had to be up there. As do Dwarven. Not just because I'm playing them at the moment, but to be honest, actually, Dwarven are like there for me. I think they are my favourite. The mix between the human and the elven choices, the elven units they get, the Avari and the Moraquendi, the just sheer strength and joy that they bring, and the factor that yes, you start off with like one mainline enemy, but you are at risk from other areas, as I found out. But for them, probably more than any other, it's actually a fairly unique kind of start. For them more than anyone else. No, that's not actually true. There are a few factions like that where it starts off with like 1v1 kind of case. But yeah, the sheer variety in the units, the Thorn units, the Elves, the Vintercourt, they're also like one of the best factions for me in terms of size that they start at. And the fact that they're all consolidated. And yeah, I've just had a whale of a time on the campaign, and I love their units and their roster. So that is why they're the top tier. And also, the other thing is they're not overpowered. So no battle is a particular pushover for them, which means that you've always got to be prepared. And I do like that aspect as well. Like, even with the Dunedain, sometimes it's like once you get into the higher tier units, some battles can just be complete walkovers. Same with Lorien, same with Ered Luin, and even the Easterlings. I think the one exception on that S tier for that is, aside from Dwarven, is actually Anduin. Bree. Middle B. Similar sort of reason to Dunland in terms of I just haven't had a particular enticement to play them. Actually, to be honest, because of that particular enticement stuff and everything, I'm actually going to move Dol Guldur up here, because I do actually get enticed somewhat to play Dol Guldur, but like from Dol Guldur onwards, it's like I can have fun with these factions, but I'm not overly enticed to play as them as much. I know that Bree have a lot of fun variety, and I know like if you want to go with like buy half of Middle Earth, they're the perfect faction to do that with. But yeah, I almost find them too sort of just sizable for my taste, and like yeah, you can go with the Dunedain, you can also go with the mercenaries, and it's an interesting mix to actually have a proper weaponized mercenary kind of faction there. And they do get access to some elves and dwarfs, which is also fun. But I think for me, that's as high as I can actually put Bree. For now. I'm not saying like they can't go higher. Same with Dunland, it's just for now, that's where they are. Dale. I really do quite like Dale's roster. But I also really am not particularly keen on their campaign. So I think they're going to have to go B as well. It's just... It's not even the fact that they start off bad, it's a unique challenge and things like that. It's just... I actually find Dale's campaign pretty boring in a lot of cases. I don't know why. It's just something that's never particularly drove to me. It's like if I want to play a human faction in that area, particularly in that area, I'll play Dwarven far more than I'll play Dale. They have brilliant archers, but I think an aspect of that issue is it makes them kind of one note in a little bit, similar to the Woodland Realm. So yeah, that's really all I have to say on Dale, which I'm a bit sorry about, but yeah. Enidwaith. Enidwaith are going middle way for me. Especially since they got this update. They are the kings of javelins, and I absolutely love that. Like, I know I said that for Erebor it's lacking in the arrows and things, but Enidwaith have a much different combat style. Like, Enidwaith are like a great mix of Erebor and Dol Guldur for me. In terms of the numbers, in terms of the ambush style, but mixed in with the javelin aesthetic. And it's also the thing that puts them above both of them is the fact that they start off pretty damn neutral. You can basically go anywhere, you can go against anyone once you unite the clans or the tribes or whichever one it is for Enidwaith, and I absolutely love that. And their units have a great aesthetic style to them as well. And yeah, like, I've seen on multiple campaigns that they end up actually giving Isengard a big challenge, and I absolutely find that brilliant. Because I do remember in my own Isengard campaign I did struggle against them somewhat. But last but not least, we have the Horse Lords. I think they fit kind of perfectly with Khand. Rohan have great cavalry, they have decent archers, they've got decent infantry. But there's no way of escaping it. Almost, in a fairness, almost like Dorwinion and Rune in some cases. You're just stuck with the one note case of it's you against Isengard at the start. Like, that's effectively it. But I guess the thing that lets Rohan down more than anything else is actually not Rohan itself, but who it's surrounded by. Like, Dol Guldur can easily march through and come after you without Lorien really doing anything, and you can easily end up having to face against mass hordes from Mordor, and like, you can have the great aesthetic, you can have the great forces and everything, but going up against stack after stack after stack of Mordor is just, it's draining. And yeah, it's like, and it's also one of those sort of peculiar ones where if you end up taking Isengard out pretty early, you're kind of stuck on what to do. Like, you can try and fight Dunland, you could turn against Enidwaith, you could maybe go and send forces to help the elves or Gondor, but you're limited by geography in a lot of cases, kind of similar to what lets the Ardennian down in some cases. But just before we conclude, there are the two other aspects that I wanted to do, which is Khand. Like, this is Khand if they are evil for me. If Khand go like rogue or good, yes, it's a challenge, and yes, but you also have them, like, with the horde nature, you have a more freedom of choice and movement on where you can go. And for me, that actually puts them up to a low A. So, like, they're between those two. And then for Ered Luin, like, I love Ered Luin's roster and a faction. But the thing that stops it from going any higher than this in S tier is that they do start out a bit far away, and it's like you build up, but it's pretty honestly quite easy to build up as them. Which is why, if you accept the rings, in all honesty, I'd actually put them here. And just because of the challenge that gives, and because you've gone completely rogue, but you're completely rogue and you're surrounded, you're tucked in the corner and you're rogue, so you're rogue. So it's a very nice little fun aesthetic and idea. But that is going to be where this concludes. So, apologies about the little technical babble earlier on. But yes, this is going to be part one of this. There'll be another part where I'm talking about the AI behavior in terms of my view, because some of them are, and some of it is going to be judged based around the Dwarven faction. Like, I can think of a particular one that's going to be far lower on the list than it is. But yes, until next time, please do comment, like, and subscribe. Please do check out the links in the description, and I shall bid you a cheerio, and welcome to the Kingdom of Apologise and the world of Fellowmind books. Thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you would like to see some similar content to this one, you can click there. Or if you would like to change around and have an explore of some of the other content, then you can check out the link below, which will be to a playlist. And if you would like to check out the content on other pages or socials, or if you would like to explore some of the other elements in detail, or pick up a book or whatever, or come and chat to me on Twitch when I'm alive, then down there. And as you can see, it has a list of what to expect on each of those platforms. And until next time, welcome to the Kingdom of Apologise, the world of Fellowmind books. Please do like, please do subscribe, and if you want to, pop out a comment.